Hi, I'm John Green. Welcome to my salon. This is menopause, is what many of you think I'm saying when I say this is mental floss. That's just one of many questions of grammar, spelling, and usage that we will be exploring and correcting today. Let's just start out with one that no matter how many times I hear it, I always struggle with, even though I know I'm a novelist. Lay versus lie. Lay is transitive. It needs a direct subject and one or more objects. And the past tense of lay is laid, which slang makes confusing because it is also something that you can get. So you lay down your copy of the brilliant and heartwarming novel The Fault in Our Stars. If it happened in the past, you laid down your copy of The Fault in Our Stars. Lie does not require an object, and the past tense of lie is, of course, lay. So if you need to get out of gym class, and if you're like me, you do, then you need to go to the nurse's office and lie down. Whereas Clark Kent lay down when he found that he could not save Toad from the gigantic bear. Skeleton. Literally means something that 100% for sure, no doubt, is true. For example, you did not literally die when you fell down the stairs because you are telling me the story of your literal dying. This is a bad sentence. I wish One Direction would come to Indianapolis. I think Niall Horan would like it here. If your sentence contains two independent thoughts, you have a run-on sentence. If you put a comma in the middle, that just gives you a comma splice. Try using a semicolon, or even better, a period. There's this band I like called the Avett Brothers, possibly the Avett Brothers, and they have this song I like in which they sing, "I want to have friends that I can trust who love me for the man I've become, not the man that I was." But it should be who? It should be three who's. I want to have friends who I can trust, who love me for the man who I've become. That is for non-people. Who is for people. And when you call a who a that, you are dehumanizing the who. And don't dehumanize the who. They already have enough problems just with old age. Your delicious new chili red Mini Cooper is not for sale. It is for sale. Okay, who and whom. Who and whom are both pronouns. Who is a subject, whom is an object. So who is your favorite Spice Girl, but whom do you like among the Spice Girls? Easy trick, if your answer would contain a he or a she, use who. If your answer would contain a him or a her, use whom. If you're using a singular noun, use a singular pronoun. And if you're using a plural noun, use a plural pronoun. For example, everyone in our office has their friends, but everyone in our office has his or her favorite episode of Duck Dynasty. It's Catcher in the Rye, but Sex and the City. You nip it in the bud. Never nip anything in the butt. You couldn't care less. Saying you could care less implies that you care at least somewhat because you could reduce your level of caring. A lot is two words, as in I have a space lot of unwatched episodes of The Vampire Diaries on my DVR. Lose, as in lose the game, has one O. Loose, as in hey Justin Bieber, I haven't seen pants that loose since MC Hammer, has two O's. If you're referring to something you can count, use fewer. If it's an uncountable quality, like love, use less. For instance, there is now one fewer Matryoshka doll on the wall of magic, and it is a little bit less magical. Could of is not a thing. Neither is should of, neither is would of. You get the picture. Could've is a contraction of could have. Should've is a contraction of should have. I'll leave it to you to figure out what would've means. Speaking of commonly said things that are not in fact things, for all intensive purposes is wrong. It's for all intents and purposes. Subjects, I, you, he, she, it, we, they. Objects, me, you, him, her, it, us, them. So, I, you, he, she, it, we, they ate ice cream. But Henry VIII married and then decapitated me, you, him, her, it, us, them. Here's a quick tip for figuring out whether to use me or I. Take away the other noun in the sentence. For example, Mark and me went to Starbucks, or Mark and I went to Starbucks. First, you have to remove Mark. I am sorry, Mark. I went to Starbucks makes sense, but me went to Starbucks sounds like Captain Caveman, so you use I. Anxious means you are nervous. It comes from anxiety. If you're excited for something, you're eager, not anxious. Good is an adjective or a noun. Well is always an adverb, so you're not doing good because you're describing how you're doing. You're doing well, which is good. If implies a condition. Whether implies there are two options, so we don't know whether to watch Full House or Sabrina the Teenage Witch, but watch Full House If it's the episode about Michelle getting amnesia. If it's coming toward the speaker, use bring. If it's going away from the speaker, use take. So Mark is bringing me the laser cat. Thank you, Mark. This is so awesome. I am so, yes, do it. Why did you take it away? Historic is something significant that happened in history, but historical is just anything that happened in the past. Of course, deciding what's significant is subjective. That's why we have Crash Course History. All right, let's quickly go through some words that sound the same. Your means you are. Your is something you possess. Its means it is or it has. Its is something that it possesses. This is its eye. It's named Cellophane, by the way. We can't tell you the story. It's too cute. You're going there. Something they own is theirs, and they're weird. If you're trying to say who is, contract to whose. Whose indicates ownership or of whom or which. Emigrate with an E if you're moving away from your home country. Immigrate with an I if you're moving to a new country. I mean, usually you're doing both at the same time. It's really a matter of which country's paperwork you're filling out. Pro tip, keep all passports. 2 is the number that comes after 1. 2 is also, and 2 is the only one you can use as an infinitive or as a preposition, as in, I want to go to Disney World. Allusion is the noun form of the verb to allude. Illusion is what Job does on Arrested Development. A bear is what you don't want to encounter on your camping trip. It's also to carry or to tolerate, as in bear with me, or to stay in one direction, bear right. Bare means exposed or naked, as in how I feel when singing karaoke. Illicit is a verb. Illicit is an adjective. You can think of it this way. Illicit drugs will make you ill. Lead is the past tense of lead. Lead is the kind of paint you shouldn't eat. You write notes on stationery. Think E for envelope. And you remain stationary. The weather channel is completely unnecessary because Siri, whereas weather I already explained. Affect is a verb implying change. Effect is a noun meaning the result. Some people think that you can use effect as a verb as well, but those people are wrong. Use than for comparisons, otherwise use then to mean next or later. Like One Tree Hill is better than the OC. Well, we can watch One Tree Hill then instead of the OC. Speaking of my love for early 2000s TV, Mr. Feeney was Corey Matthews' principal. Principal with an A can also mean the highest in importance. The principal problem in this office, for instance, is that no one appreciates a good Boy Meets World reference. A principle is only a noun, meaning a law or a rule. Accept is a verb, as in you have to accept that we are back at the salon and therefore this video is almost over. Except is a preposition or conjunction, like this video is over. Except for the credits. Thanks for watching Mental Floss, which is brought to you with the help of these nice people. Every week we endeavor to answer one of your mind-blowing questions. This week's question comes from user I hate 4 kids. I hope not your 4 kids. Why is the sky blue? I don't know. Hank?
Thanks, John. And great question. I hate 4 kids. I guess you probably hate kids because they keep asking questions like this that are seemingly obvious, but actually ridiculously difficult to answer. The problem here is that we don't just have to understand why the sky is blue to understand why the sky is blue. We also have to understand what is blue. Surprisingly, this is a difficult question to answer, but if someone asks you what blue is, this is what you should say. The light that we see is a very narrow band of the electromagnetic spectrum, a spectrum of radiation wavelengths that stretches all the way from waves the size of buildings to waves the size of atomic nuclei. Visible light has wavelengths roughly the size of single-celled organisms like protozoans, so small, but not anywhere near as small as atoms. Our eyes are actually extremely sensitive wavelength detectors in the visible range. We can distinguish between the longer wavelengths of red light and the shorter wavelengths of blue light. And that is what blue is, an interaction between our eyes, our brains, and certain electromagnetic waves. Now as to what's actually happening in the atmosphere. Radiation can interact with particles in a few different ways. It can bounce off, it can reflect, it can be absorbed and re-emitted. But if it's interacting with particles that are much smaller than the wavelength of the radiation, like molecules of oxygen and nitrogen in the atmosphere, the radiation is not absorbed or reflected, it's scattered. Because nitrogen and oxygen are particularly good at scattering blue light with shorter wavelengths rather than other colors, blue light is scattered out from the main beam of the sun's light and all around the atmosphere before scattering down to our eyes. The effect? A yellow-tinged, blueless sun and a beautiful shell of blue light from horizon to horizon.
Again, thanks for watching Mental Floss. Remember to submit your own questions and DFTBA.